Why pick on Christianity?
Because it's impossible not to. See, if you spend the better part of a millennia engaging in a violent, near-global campaign of cultural erasure, taking other people's stories, their iconography, their symbolic imagery, and superimposing your Christian ideology on top of it, you paint everybody else into a corner, creating a situation where humans can't engage in human culture without stepping on your toes. And now you're like, why does everyone keep stepping on our toes? Which was kind of the point, right? The church took pre-existing cultural imagery and started associating it with sinfulness and evil and Satan so that they could start violently murdering people who didn't want to subjugate themselves to Christian authority, but rather wanted to keep their own cultural practices alive by declaring them to be Satanists. You're going to have to start getting comfortable with the idea that none of these images belong to you. The pale horse, the water to wine, the shrouded man, the immaculate conception, the resurrection, the Son of God, none of these concepts are the exclusive property of Christianity. In fact, most of these concepts predate Christianity by as far back as we have a historical record to keep track of them. Krishna was an immaculate conception, born of non-sexual union. Athena was an immaculate conception. As a goddess of wisdom, she literally crawled out of Zeus's head. She also remained a virgin and was venerated for it, and there's some obvious differences, but also some obvious parallels to the Virgin Mary. Well, Dionysus, the one being depicted that you're all so upset about, was born of a virgin and turned water into wine. In Norse mythology, the god Odin sacrificed himself on the world tree, and when he resurrected, he had gained the wisdom of the worlds. Doesn't that sound just like a tad familiar? Now, there's nothing wrong with this kind of overlap. That's what culture is. That's what it does. But there is something wrong with people thinking they're being mocked and persecuted simply because other people are expressing human culture through a lens that isn't theirs.
The organizer of the Olympic opening ceremony was a Talmudic Satanist, a literal devil worshiper.
The thing is, the Talmud is Jewish, and Jewish people don't believe in the Christian version of the devil. Mashing together of the snake in the Garden of Eden with the character that God tortures Job to prove some abstract point to, with the character that comes to whisper in Jesus's ear to tempt him when he's in the desert, and then turning that character into the king of the underworld who seemingly is doing God's bidding by punishing the wicked, but somehow still is contextualized as God's adversary, is modern Christian fanfic. Describing somebody as a Talmudic Satanist or a literal devil worshipper is insisting that other people's cultural practices should be interpreted through your lens. That is basically the gist of the persecution that Christians think that they're experiencing. People are no longer afraid of you and therefore do not feel obliged to keep expressing all of history and art and symbolism and stories and iconography through the filter of your worldview.